Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining today, everybody. And man, I am excited to get into another Tuesday discussion. So all of the content that comes on Tuesday from the channel is generated by the community based on questions that we get from Patreon, Instagram, or the YouTube comments right here. So when we get these questions, I like to handle it in this type of format and create some type of dialogue with everybody that watches. So be sure to come back, leave a comment at the end. Let us know your thoughts on this particular topic. Today's topic was, Jeff, I see you doing all of these different reviews for the channel. What do you drink when it's on your own terms? Essentially was asking me what my daily drinkers were, but I'll be frank, I don't have any daily drinkers, and we're going to get into that very, very soon and the reasons why. So I'm going to spin it a little bit and say, when I get to choose what I want to drink, when I really don't want to think about drinking it, what do I choose to drink? And along the way, I'll give you some tips and tricks about the particular brands that I'll be showing. So thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. So during these Tuesday discussions, I always like to have a little pour with everybody. Though frankly, I just talk and never drink, but I always like to pour something. And today, this will be one of the categories that I highlight in terms of the things that I do drink on my own terms. And we'll get back to what this means in just a moment. But this one was a OKI 100% rye whiskey. So a 5-year whiskey with a unique mash bill coming out of Indiana. We'll get to why I'm highlighting this one in just a moment. But man, tasting this one through, if you have a chance to try these, oh man, it is really good. I'd almost describe it as like a lemon bar, but rather than being a lemon bar, it's an orange bar. And the graham cracker crust underneath it all is really peppery. Yeah, then on the palate, you get all that. Spice really comes out. Man, maybe in addition to that powdered sugar on top of those orange bars, there's some whipped cream too. Good stuff. So let's get into the question then. The question was essentially, what do I drink in terms of my daily drinkers? But I can't answer it in the way that the context of the question was really presented to me, because a lot of my habits have changed because of the channel. Before I sit down and I review something, I'm typically spending 3, maybe 4 drinking sessions with it before I start recording those scores. So if you think about it, if any given time, I've got maybe 2 bottles that are in motion and that are going to be the review for the next week or the following week, that's 3 to 8 grams over the course of the week. I mean, that's a lot of the drinking right there. There doesn't leave a whole lot of room and a whole lot of time for anything else. And I got to be careful on how much I'm drinking. So that in general has really, really changed habits. And the other thing that kind of typically happens because of that is, a lot of the times, maybe when I do get to drink on my own terms, it's going to be like a Friday pour. It's going to be staring at the sunset, going to be out on my back porch. If you just check out the Instagram for the channel, you know what I'm drinking all the time because I'm always taking pictures and doing my little filters on it and having fun. But these won't necessarily be daily drinkers that I'm highlighting, bottles that are $30, $40, $20 in that range. That's not what we'll be talking about today. Typically what I drink is between $50 to $100. So just kind of keep that in mind. But what I'm going to do is highlight 5 brands or categories that I do drink most often, especially when I have the choice. And I'm going to get one out of the way early here. I mean, I guess I've already poured one because it was OKI, but, that's going to be a different category when I get to that. So I'll circle back around to it. But I drink a lot of Indiana bourbon. I just do. I love MGP. It's been my favorite distillery now for a handful of years. When I first got into whiskey, I just kept gravitating towards sourced MGP for some reason. And really, I've just never stopped ever since. So I do drink a lot of MGP. Now, what has been really exciting about MGP, or Ross and Squibb, if we want to go with the new name, has been the fact that we have been able to get older barrels very consistently over the last 12 to 16, 18 months. For a while there, back in 2020, 2021 era, we could only get 4 to 5 year old MGP single barrels. And as much as I love MGP, young MGP turns me off a lot. It can come across very grainy, grassy. Man, the youth just shines through on that. But now we're hitting a very consistent spread of 7, 8, and 9 year MGP single barrels. And the best part about it is they don't break the bank if you know what brands to go after. And I'll highlight a few here for the channel, to give you some tips on this. But here are the type of whiskeys that I have been drinking. One brand, keep an eye on these. It's the Copper Craft. These come in pretty much 9 years. They're lower proof, typically the 21% rye. Man, really, really good stuff. This is my second bottle here. And then the other one that I've been really getting into are the barrel bourbons. So be sure on the back of the barrel bourbons to check the back where it was distilled. But if it was distilled in Indiana, I've been finding these 9 years, as you can see, once again, the lower proof. I'm guessing this one is the 21% rye again. But I've gone through a few bottles of this, and both of those typically range between $80 and $90 when it comes to the barrel and the Copper Craft. The other one that I absolutely adore is the Backbone Bourbon. So if you see Backbone, man, check them out. They are real good. Prices typically are between 60 to 80, but the other thing that's exciting about Backbone is sometimes you can find some finished ones as well. So this particular one I'm holding, as an example, was in its original barrel for 5 years, 1 month, and then aged in a rum barrel for 2 years. Recently had this with a cigar, and it was one of my favorite cigar whiskey pairings in quite a while. It was pretty epic. It was during a fantasy football draft too. I was having a great time. The last MGP I will highlight, because I drink a lot of the MGP, it's going to be this Bridle and Bit, man. I've been really enjoying this. So there's a local store that's getting these picks of Bridle and Bit. I mean, I guess you can see the store right there. But man, look at that. That was number 2. I mean, I already drank number 1. Here's number 3. Looks like I need to do some damage on 3 still. And I've been really enjoying number 4. So these, once again, are all MGP. It says double oak on it, but it's actually Amburana finished. I mean, this is an 8-year, 114 proof MGP Amburana. And I'll tell you what, I think they've been getting to like the 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th cast fill on these Amburanas. And I think Amburana finishes are actually better when those barrels keep getting recycled. So I wouldn't be surprised on those. So that's it. That's it. I won't talk about MGP anymore until right now when I talk about more MGP, but in a totally different context. So let's get to what I'm drinking here. The other thing I do drink a lot of is going to be local group picks. You got to support the groups that you're in. If you are in a group and they are doing barrel picks, and they're doing quality barrel picks, I mean, don't just support any group, but if they're doing quality barrel picks, if they don't sell out of the picks, they're not going to keep doing the picks. So buy the picks. Help support your local groups. So the example that I had here was the OKI 100% rye. I'll get this camera to work eventually here. There we go. 100% rye whiskey. This was a unique one. I don't see many places having this. They didn't have too many barrels of this, but one of my local groups got it. So of course I jumped on top of it. And now I've got this delicious, what I'm calling an orange bar rather than a lemon bar. But it also gives me a chance to try other things. So there's a group here in Columbus, and I got to try Watershed for the first time, thanks to this group doing a Watershed pick. And man, I've really enjoyed this pick so far. And then still beyond that, a lot of these picks will do, a lot of these groups will do some NBC. Yeah, it's a lot of MGP. I'm an MGP guy. That'll be it. I talked about MGP for the first category. I talked about MGP in the second category. I promise. I half promise that, maybe I kind of promise that I'm only going to little bit talk about MGPs some more. All right. So the next one on the list that I have been absolutely crushing this year, though maybe saying that I'm crushing it is not entirely true, and it would be my wife who tends to gravitate towards this, and that's probably why most of them are empty. That's a different story. Man, these Sagamore Ryes have been so good, man. So good. Where is that sweet spot? There it is. Come on. Do it. Do the thing. There we go. Sagamore Rye. Look at that. So this one was a good pick by the junkies. And then the other one that's getting real low is the Smoldering Dusty Dan here. So that one's getting low. She really likes Dusty Dan. But man, these Sagamore, everything. The cast strength is really good. The double oak is really good. I got a sherry finish over there that's about halfway through. I've got a cognac finish there that's about halfway through. I was having that with the cigar during the fancy draft too. There are just so many good varieties of Sagamore right now. I love those Sagamore Ryes. So let's go to the next one here. This one is not MGP, and the fifth one's not MGP either. So I swear, this time I am actually done talking about MGP, except right now because I'm going to take a sip of it. Oh, that's good. So we got Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. So I do drink a lot of ECBP. Now this one is a pick. Which one did I end up grabbing here? Oh, I grabbed C918. Yeah, clearly I'm not drinking a whole lot of C918 here. Now, with the batches, I actually don't drink the batches that often anymore. It's kind of mostly for the channel and to get the reviews through, but I haven't really fallen in love with the batch in a while. The reason that I have this one out and just happened to grab it is because I'm kind of on a mission to review and score all of the ECBPs that I have, which is essentially all the batches almost since 2017. And then I've got one pirate barrel there. And then Darrell's helping me fill in some of the gaps. But we're going to do that for a future video because I got asked a question for this Tuesday discussion of, how do the ECBPs score over time? Well, we got to score them all first to find that out. But the reason that ECBP is really on the list, I have had a whole lot of fun getting into these ECBP private barrels. Man, this one's a 9-year. This was a really good one. Really super viscous. But I think I've gone through maybe 2 of these so far this year from different groups and stores around the country. And man, I've been really getting them kind of consistently too. I just got like an 8-year from a local store recently that I plan to do something special with. So these ECBP single barrels, 8, 10, 11 years, just depends on the single barrel that you get. But they've been giving me more bang for the buck than the blends sometimes. So that's interesting. All right. The final brand that I will highlight for today is the one that I will emphatically recommend that you try out if you have not tried them out yet. Now, I'm unclear on how wide distribution is. I can get them in Ohio. I can get them in Kentucky, get them in Indiana. But I don't know how wide it is. Oh, I think I've seen it in Chicago too. Maybe I'm right or wrong there. But keep an eye out for this brand for something that is 2 to 3 years old. It is absolutely incredible whiskey. And if you've been following the channel, you know what I'm highlighting here. Let's talk about some truth. Here's the hard truth here. Here's the chocolate malt. This is my second bottle of the chocolate malt, so I haven't done too much damage on this one. But man, these other ones, they're getting low. Probably not too surprising to anybody, but the caramel malt here. If you've had this one This is probably the one that I would recommend the most. This is absolutely crushable. And then really just the regular one's fine to start out with. So this is the Mash Bill 1. I mean, this stuff is great too. I absolutely love this. But ultimately, favorite hard truth of the year has actually been the single barrel that we got from the distillery when we were doing a group pick with the Mash and Journey. And they had this one, in their tours and tasting area there. And man, this thing is so good. Darrell's been yelling at me because I haven't scored it yet. And this is like his number 1 whiskey of the year. No, I've just been crushing it. I mean, eventually I'll get to scoring it. But usually when I'm scoring things, it's like right around here, the neck of the bottle, as I was saying off the top of this, 3 to 4 pours in, I score it. This one I just keep sitting down with and drinking. It is so good. And for something that typically I would kind of like save the things that are going to be maybe in the top 10 of any category or any list later in the year, I have not done a very good job on this one. But those are the things I drink when left to my own devices. And I'm not doing necessarily something for the channel. I'm just trying to relax, hang out, do a fantasy draft, have a cigar, hang out on the porch, enjoy sunset, hang out in the Sunday afternoon for a Sunday fun day. I mean, those are the type of things that I'm drinking during those scenarios. So just to recap, I highlighted a whole lot of MGP. That's what I do. I mean, look at the cabinet behind me. Local group picks. Support your local group picks. The Sagamore, the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, specifically a lot of the single barrels coming out right now, and then finish it off with Hard Truth. Be sure to try some Hard Truth. So I am curious now, with this context in mind, what do you drink when you're left up to your own devices? Do you go with just a daily drinker? What's the price range that you're going for? What is the criteria? And ultimately, what are the bottles? What are the brands? So come back in the comments and let us know. Well, that's it for today's show. Thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. I'll catch you on the next Tuesday discussion. Goodbye, everybody.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello